Hi, this is David from Mission Personal Injury Lawyers, and I have a special guest with me today. It's actually a former client that we represented back in 2017. Yeah, it's been it's been several years now, but we thought it'd be great to have him back to talk about his experience. We want to bring former clients back to the office, let them share their experience with you, so you can understand what happens in these cases, why people do it, and how we can help. So, Frank, we want to talk a little bit about your case. And I know that the trial was back in 2017 and you're involved in a bike accident before that, right?
Yes, so my name's Frank Mercado. I was a student at UC Davis, getting my PhD in cancer biology. I would bike home after getting out of the lab at night, and my way home one night just hit a pretty big pothole, flipped off my bike, pretty much shredded my knee open. Kind of stood up, and I just realized all this kind of blood was soaking down. Not to get too graphic. I called my girlfriend at the time to come pick me up. She took me to the emergency room at UC Davis, where I was a student at, and just kind of remember my leg kind of starting to lock up. Realized that I wasn't walking. They ended up moving the cut around so that I could actually see my kneecap. That's when I realized that this is actually gonna be worse.
Yeah.
They ended up taking me into surgery. Um, I thought I was just gonna get my knee scoped to kind of clear everything out, but once they were in there, that's when they realized the patellar tendon has been completely severed. I woke up after surgery to one of the fellows coming in and saying, "Yeah, you torn your patellar tendon. You're gonna be out for a couple months." That's when it all kind of hit me that this was a major injury, and it's not gonna be it's gonna be pretty bad.
It's gonna be a long road.
Yeah.
Uh, so how was the recovery process?
Um, yeah, it was a nightmare. I had a stabilizer brace on for about 3 months. I remember at night, if I wanted to just go to the bathroom, I had to put everything on, go, and then come back and just kind of lay down with it.
Just to use the bathroom yet?
Yeah, had to wrap it up in the shower. If I wanted to get in a car somewhere, I had to keep it straight, so I had to lay down in the back seat everywhere. Yeah, it was really tough for a couple months.
So no driving for you.
No, no. Had to rely on rides everywhere, basically. So yeah, those couple months actually pushed my graduation that date back for my doctorate, like let's say about a semester.
Really? Um, what about, things like putting on your clothes?
Yeah, I mean, my girlfriend at the time was the best. She would help out with that, but it was literally I need assistance for everything.
Yeah.
And so yeah, going through that ordeal was pretty tough. And so not only that, but compounding that with the amount of medical bills, like it just seemed like this, like a lot that I was gonna have to kind of get through and overcome. And so, like I said, that's when I remember you asking, like, "Hey, if you can find any evidence that there was actually a pothole that you remember hitting, then maybe we can do something about that." And then honestly, that really gave me hope. Like, hey, maybe we can find something good to come out of all of this bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll keep in mind the fact that you were in Sacramento or Davis at the time.
Right.
I was in San Diego, but we're still able to help you. As far north to.
Right, right. And yeah, I remember I moved down to San Diego and we went up for the trial. And so, that was a whole nother thing, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, where was the pothole located?
It was on the street, so as I was biking back to my apartment.
And was it in the bike lane?
Yes, it was.
I think I remember it was like kind of directly in the middle of the bike lane.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, after I woke up in the hospital and ended up getting the surgery, I remember you had asked me like, "Hey, do you remember hitting anything?" I was like, "Yeah, I hit a pothole." And so then you asked me, once I was good enough to go and you make take some pictures or see some evidence.
Right.
Weeks or months later, I was able to actually see that pothole that I actually hit.
Yeah. And I know when you first talked to me about what you hit, and what happened to you. I wasn't sure about the severity, and as time revealed, your injury turned out to be pretty severe.
Right, right. Initially, when I went into the ER, I thought I was just going to need a couple of stitches, but it turned out I completely severed my patellar tendon. So I was, pretty much out of commission for months, and it honestly took me about 2 years for me to get full range of motion back in my knee.
They took you 2 years to get full range of motion.
Yeah, about there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that we have a photo of your knee at the time that it happened. And how is your knee now?
I mean, it'll never be back to what it was, but it's doing better. I mean, I can definitely tell you when it's about to rain.
Yeah. And do you feel like you have full range of motion now?
Yeah, but it's still a little bit limited from what I can do just from running and stuff like that. I was a pretty big runner. Because of the knee injury, now I have runner's knee in my other knee, so it's really complicated a lot of what I've been able to do since.
Yeah. You remember what they initially offered you when we first?
Yeah, so again, this injury happened, I want to say 2011. So between then and when we actually went to trial was, I want to say, about 6 years. And so between the injury to trial, we had several I forget what they're called,
Yeah. Well,
mediations or
yeah. I remember the first initial offer that they gave you was $2,500,
right.
and then we'd gotten up to $5,000. And when we'd gone to mediation, and I think the most that they offered was 15,000.
Right, and this was despite me still having quite a bit of outstanding medical bills that amount of money wouldn't have even covered.
Right. You had $80,000 in medical bills.
Right, right.
And all of this, those were the offers that they made, despite the fact that we had caught them red-handed. We actually had Google photos of them working on that exact pothole. And despite that, they still denied creating the pothole. They still denied that he was injured. It was horrible. And I don't want to call it any names, but the defense wasn't being very polite. They weren't acting civil, and in a sense, they were insulting.
Yeah, I mean, going into those meetings before the trial and just hearing them really kind of lowballing and just really insinuating that nothing had happened, nothing was wrong. I mean, I would have loved to not have to go through the whole trial process, but I mean, they pretty much forced our hand into that.
Yeah. So as a result of defense and defendant not being honest, we were forced to try the case, and we're forced to present this case in front of a jury. And ultimately, after we spoke to the jurors, and thankfully we got a verdict and we won. And thank you very much for having confidence in us and doing that. And that's one thing we can say is not a lot of lawyers will try cases, and we definitely will if we need to. And thankfully we came out on top. And the one thing that the jurors said, that the reason we won the case was because we had these very pictures showing them at the scene creating the pothole, when they denied it the entire time that they'd created the pothole.
Yeah, it was like I said, I wouldn't recommend if you don't have to ever go to trial and take a stand. It's not the most pleasurable experience you'll ever have, but having someone like Dave and his father representing me really made the whole difference. I honestly wouldn't want to do it with anybody else. It's pretty harrowing up there when the defense is just kind of going after you on the stand, but having a competent lawyer there really guiding you through the process, I think really helped. And honestly, I think by me taking the stand really helped sway the jury in our favor.
Now, you were a good witness. And that's one thing that definitely helps, is if you have good people on the stand testifying about what they've really gone through. That way jurors can empathize and recognize this is just a regular person who's gone through something traumatic, and we need to help them. And that's what that was the case here. And thankfully we got enough money from the verdict to pay for his medical bills, give Frank some money, and I think he even paid some of your student loans.
Yeah, that was. I mean, again, like I wouldn't. I'd trade all that in for a whole knee, but that was a nice thing to be able to, I guess, fall back on or come out with at the end. I believe also we were able to create a new California case law.
Yeah, yeah. As a result of that, there's some case law that was established from your case, and that was pretty cool.
So it was really tough. And then mentally you start really getting down on yourself. Like it really is a long recovery. So I mean, it wasn't just the physical aspect; it was the mental part as well. Not being able to just get up and go get some water if you wanted to.
Yeah. I remember at one point you told me that a doctor told you didn't have any more muscle on your leg.
Yeah. Once they pulled the mobilizer brace off after a couple months, it's pretty much gone. I remember walking around like a baby giraffe, trying to get out of the clinic. So yeah, it was a long road to recovery, and like I said, I'm still not completely, and I never will be completely where I was before the accident.
When you're in the hospital and you see that there's going to be a lot of prolonged treatment, were you concerned about the cost of everything?
Well, I mean, it's funny you mention it because like at first I just thought it was going to be a couple stitches, and then after several days in the hospital, that's kind of when it dawned on me, like this is going to be pretty bad. So that's when I started feeling maybe the thought of that, this is going to be an expensive thing that I might have to go through, in addition to just the injury itself, which isn't something that you want to think of. But yeah, that definitely was at least in the back of my mind.
Yeah, it's scary. People don't realize the number one cause of bankruptcy in the United States is medical bills. And you didn't want to be one of those people.
No, and then I remember getting that initial bill and just being like, oh my God, how am I actually going to pay this? So, thankfully we did have, this way and being able to see that there was some sort of damage or that there was some sort of liability on this company, was maybe we can see if they're going to be able to help us pay for that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they didn't want to help us pay. So we had to force them.
Yeah. Having a good lawyer in your corner is really going to be making all the difference.
I appreciate it. Well, it was great having you, Frank. I really appreciate you doing this for us.
Of course.
And I think what you being here is going to help a lot of people that see it.
Awesome. Well, glad to help.